Welcome to today's Wisdom from the Word. I have to admit that I've never seen the movie. I'm talking about the film musical Mary Poppins. It's the story of a spoiled and bored upper-crust English family who have their world turned upside down by a nanny who teaches them how to enjoy life. Whether or not I'm inclined to watch it, the critics loved this 1964 film. It won 13 Academy Awards and is part of our country's national film archives. I mention it because in it, there's a song sung by Mary Poppins with the lyrics, "Each virtue virtually knows no bound. Each trait is great and patently sound. I'm practically perfect from head to toe. If I had a fault, it would never dare to show. I'm so practically perfect in every way." Of course, she sings these words tongue-in-cheek. If she were as narcissistic as the words sound, she'd be unbearable. I once had a conversation with someone who told me she had no regrets about her life. No regrets. Ironically, she'd spent much of her life hurting others. No one should claim to be perfect, or even almost so. In fact, in 1 John 1:8 we read, "If we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us." Anyone claiming to be perfect is lying, both to themselves and everyone else. Yet there is one place in the Bible where we're told how to be perfect. It's found in James 3:2. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect man. So it is possible to be perfect. Just be careful what I say, and I can attain perfection. What I've just done is taken the Bible out of context, a favorite tactic of all who want to make the Bible say something it doesn't say. The truth is, if we read on, James says, "No human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison." What he's saying is, if it were possible for a person to completely control their communication at all times, he or she would be perfect, but no one can do this. His argument is that our tongue is the most difficult thing about us to control. Every other part of our body is easier to control by comparison. If you could ever fully master your mouth, you could handle everything else. I can't think of a subject more pertinent to our age than this. Every week we're subjected to politicians and protesters, news anchors and bloggers, and many, many others who use their words to demean, insult, ridicule, dismiss, cancel, or target others. Good thing we've never been guilty of doing any of these things, right? James' solution is radically different than what we might expect. Instead of telling us to count to 10 or to be a little nicer in what we say, he says this: we need to seek God's wisdom. Read James 3:13 through 17. He tells us the source of evil speech is an hell-sourced wisdom. Really, that's what he says. And if we would seek God's wisdom, we'd speak with humility. We'd be open to reasoning. We'd be impartial and unhypocritical. The wisdom that is earthly produces conflict and division. It's mean-spirited. It doesn't say what it should say and says what it shouldn't. But the wisdom that comes from above produces speech that is humble, peace-seeking, reasonable, impartial, unhypocritical. Imagine what our world would be like if everyone sought God's wisdom. Okay, it's a bit idealistic. Let's try this. Imagine what the world would be like if every Christian sought God's wisdom before they spoke. All right, I realize that's not going to happen, so let's try this. Imagine how our immediate world would change if you and I spoke with impartial, gracious, humble communication. Of course, we're already doing that, right? Others might not control their tongue, but we do. Remember, perfect in almost every way? Or perhaps, since James makes a big deal out of this, I should take another look, or two, or three.